Without any further ado, let's start off with the first talker, which will be Bill.
Well, before I speak, can I say something?
Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Thus far, we've heard a lot about the war on drugs, and we all know that it's bad. Naturally, a lot of us agree with that. But what I want to share with you tonight is something that I have discovered in my research on the subject, which could actually, in my own opinion, help us to end it by understanding it. Basically, the causes of it, and also some of the consequences of it that you may not be aware of. To me, in my own opinion, basically the war on drugs does not have a lot to do with the actual drugs themselves. The initial substance that was outlawed was basically cannabis, marijuana, hemp as it's also known. And it has a lot of industrial uses. I mean, we all know that it can be used for like rope and for other products and for other things. But basically this is a little bit of the background to it, which in my own opinion would actually help us to identify the groups out there that profit from it and cause a lot of negative, misery in the world, in my own opinion. Basically, this is a little history on it. Back at like the turn of the century in like the 1900s, the United States had an individual by the name of Leicester Dewey. He was in charge of the agriculture department for the federal government. He basically predicted that once the necessary machinery was invented, it would be cheaper to manufacture many products like paper out of hemp than it would be to manufacture them out of trees, sulfuric acid, wood pulp paper process, if you will. He predicted that the machinery would be invented, and sure enough it was. Basically, the invention was known as the decorticator machine, which is, the analogy would be similar to the invention of the cotton gin from Eli Whitney, in that it would revolutionize the production of hemp fibers. Basically, what happened was a lot of companies that stood to lose profits from such an invention, such as Hearst, Kimberly-Clark, St. Regis, DuPont. These companies basically more or less banded together and tried to figure out how they would protect their own interests. The way that they did this was not to be honest with people, but they actually demonized the plant and created reefer madness, a lot of propaganda that was racially biased, and if you did that stuff today, it would be a race hate crime, if you will. Secretary Treasurer Andrew Mellon, who was Secretary Treasurer under 3 presidents, and also from the Mellon Bank of Pittsburgh, lent a large amount of money to like DuPont, Hearst, and other companies. So he needed to protect his investment. So what he did was he had his nephew, Harry J. Anslinger, appointed to the then version of the DEA, which goes by the name Federal Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. Anyway, his goal was to demonize this plant, to scare the crap out of people to where they were fearful of a lot of things that just were not true about it. Reefer madness, if you will. And so he went before Congress, and against the wishes of the American Medical Association, scared the crap out of people, and they enacted legislation just as the invention, the decorticator machine, was being patented and was being used and had the potential to revolutionize, the industry. And basically what I'm talking about to you is it's outlawed simply because there are those that want to maintain a monopoly on fiber and industrial products. And I don't know if you're all aware, but recently Eric Holder was supposed to meet with the governor of Colorado to go over how they were going to go about selling marijuana since it was made legal there. On the advice in a letter from a company called Benzinger, DuPont and Associates, he canceled that meeting. And because they reminded him that it's still a federal law on the books. Now what I also want to do is go into the consequences that most people don't know about or may not be aware about, is that synthetic fibers are dangerous to the environment. they don't break down. They basically stay there for a while. And what I've noticed and what I've discovered is there's a lot of animals out there that inadvertently ingest plastics, petrochemicals, and other things that would not exist in the world if it wasn't for this stuff. And so they end up suffering. There's a countless amount of like species, turtles, birds, creatures in the environment that don't know this. When they ingest like plastic and other things, it causes them pain and causes death and causes a lot of negative things. This to me is like ludicrous that animals have to suffer because a couple of people want to smoke a joint and watch Lord of the Rings and get hungry. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think if we identify the people that are profiting from this and let them know we don't like it, shine a little light on them like the cockroaches that they are, then we can move forward and bring about change. That's what I had to say. My name is Bill and I support this message. If you have any questions, let me know.
Optional.
There you go. All right, next, to speak on the 2008 fiscal crisis, we have Ben Best.
All right, I've got some notes because I don't want to forget to say anything. So anyway, I guess some of you may be familiar with this, but you may not. There may be many details you don't know. If you read Ron Paul's book, In the Fed, you realize that people, Austrian economists, people tend to blame almost every financial crisis on government central banks and the way they can manipulate interest rates. But there was, and the Fed had a role in this crisis, but I think the worst cause of the crisis was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And these Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are two mortgage finance companies that were created by the federal government to look like private companies, except that they were exempt from regulations as well as from state and local taxes, and they had monopoly privileges. And anyway, they were called government-sponsored enterprises, GSEs. So I'll call them GSEs. So the GSEs didn't actually issue mortgages themselves. They would purchase mortgages that the banks issued and convert the mortgages into mortgage-backed securities. And the GSEs assumed the risk, which was assumed to be backed by the federal government. And the federal government increasingly used the GSEs to create so-called affordable housing for people who couldn't afford or couldn't have enough credit, good enough credit to borrow themselves. And by 2007, 55% of GSE loans were mandated, required by the government to be to people at or below median income. In 1976, the average down payment on a house had been 18%. But by 2005, it was down to 2%. And nearly half of first-time buyers paid no down payment. The artificial demand causes house prices to rise. Between 2001 and 2006, housing prices in Miami increased 80%. So buying a house seemed like a good investment to a lot of people. In 2005, 28% of home purchases were investments, and 12% were vacation homes. And those purchases weren't by people below average income, but they were people borrowing more than their assets or income could justify. And the banks could pass the risks on to the GSEs. By 2008, the GSEs owned or guaranteed half of the $12 trillion mortgage market in the United States. And 70% of new mortgages were being issued. But as interest rates began to rise, so did the mortgage default rate. By the summer of 2008, nearly 1/10 of all mortgages were delinquent. In July of 2008, IndyMac, the 7th largest mortgage originator in the U.S., failed. 2 months later, the federal government seized control of Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, the GSEs. The stock value of those corporations fell from a high of $80 per share to $1 per share before they were delisted. At the same time, Lehman Brothers Investment Bank filed for the largest bankruptcy in American history. The Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, regulations worsened the crisis. SEC regulations required banks to value their assets at the lowest price for which similar assets were being sold. The SEC also required money market funds to hold collateral commensurate with credit ratings of their assets. As credit ratings dropped, assets had to be sold at fire sale prices to meet collateral requirements, which resulted in a downward debt spiral. And that also includes the fact that banks had to value their assets at the lowest prices for which similar assets were sold. So there's a downward spiral caused by these regulations. In the 2008 election, both Republican and Democratic presidential candidates blamed the financial crisis on Wall Street greed and inadequate government regulation, despite the fact that George Bush had increased government spending on regulatory agencies more than any of the 6 previous presidents. Government programs and regulations created a crisis which led to cries for more government regulations. It's ludicrous to believe that politicians and bureaucrats have the morality and competence to regulate business people and the economy. So I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to go on. The next part of the story is, of course, how the government went into massive borrowing debt and deficit spending and stimulus packages and lots of other things to screw up the economy even more. But that'll be a chapter yet to come.
How are you doing this evening? Good. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm running for mayor in my local city in Miami. It's the city of Hialeah. It's the 5th biggest city in Miami-Dade County. I don't have no political background. You know, at the end of the day, I decided to do this because the police and our local politicians have gotten out of touch with reality, and they have lost their way, and basically they're not following, and they're not following in the proper footsteps that I think that they should be following in. Enough is enough. It's time to put some action and not be so complacent, because I tell people all the time, you know, you can complain so much, you know, you can go and just complain and complain and complain, but at the end of the day, if you're not gonna just actually solve the problem, get up and take some action and solve the problem, then you're just gonna stand there and take it. And part of what I'm gonna be running on, you know, is the common sense. You know, a lot of these politicians here in South Florida and the nation, they've completely lost their minds. They do not have common sense. You know, when you're running for public office, I think you should have some common sense. You know, and don't forget, you know, you're serving, you're a public servant, and they forget this. And locally where I'm at, I remind them every single time. When I walk into a room, they start shivering, because they're like, oh my God, Mr. Santana has walked in the room. You know, and that's how I have these people. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna be talking about some real facts. You know, there's no transparency where I'm at. You know, they don't take care of their public employees. just recently on the New Times, I don't know if you saw it or not, there's a director there in the city of Hialeah. He's a purchasing director. He yelled at a woman that's been working there forever. You know, and this man's been convicted of cocaine possessions and everything. And I'm like, why is this person even working with my tax dollars at the end of the day? And you know, I'm gonna be bringing this up in the next council meeting. It's hilarious. I just went to one on Tuesday. You know, I think it's unfair because this is the land of opportunity, and all the public officials that we have in office now, they've had their opportunity to receive a pension, and now they're not letting the new people that are coming. You know, there's a young Libertarian man named Marcus. You know, he's 19. He's running for councilman. There's another Libertarian named Julio. He's running for councilman. You know, because they're threatened by what the new youth is coming with, you know, and new ideas, you know, and they're basically saying, well, we don't want you to get a pension, you know, because you work 8 years, you don't deserve to get a pension. Now you just have to go back to the voters to ask the voters to get a pension. But, you know, I told the mayor, I think you should step down. You know, you're costing the city if you get elected again, you're going to be costing the city another $34,000 a year for your pension. And he already receives a pension as it is because he worked as a police officer. You know, there's a lot of crazy things going on. You know, I don't know if you guys heard that they dismantled, you know, the public corruption department in Miami-Dade County. You know, there was 18 police officers that were investigated ballot frauds, and you know, Hialeah is the capital for ballot frauds, you know, so I have a lot of work ahead of me, you know, basically because, you know, I take my camera everywhere. You know, if you ever go to the city of Hialeah, make sure you have your cell phone cameras on, they can get pulled over because they don't have dash cams. So they're gonna come to you, they're gonna be like, who the effing are you, and what are you doing here in my neighborhood, and they're going to treat you like crap because they work 80 hours a week. I've spoken to the police union already, the reps, and you know, listen, I said, look, there's 15 positions open. The mayor hasn't tried to fill it in 3 years. That's $3.4 million the city saved. But at the end of the day, there's less police officers on our streets, and the mayor's actually forcing them to give more tickets at night and not patrol the neighborhood. And I don't know if you guys have heard about the Hialeah massacre with the 6 people that died. I was there. I have video of the second time he was shooting, and the guy was holding his son. I saw the guy die. I was there because I saw them driving really erratically. I'm like, babe, follow him. Let me see where they're going. And I got out behind Home Depot and I was there standing with my camera. You know, they were like, hey, stand behind the police car over there. All right, no problem. And then next thing you know, you're there's a lot of negligence going on in that department as well because, you know, I heard the 911 tape. I'm sorry if they say, yeah, my son is thinking that somebody's doing booty to him, I would have sent a police officer. I'm sorry. You can tell the person probably has mental problems or something. And he didn't sound all this. So, you know, those lives could have been avoided. And, you know, I told the media, the mainstream media, I said, look, can you guys ask the mayor if there's enough police officers? A lot of people don't know this. There was only 14 police officers on duty that day. 14. I saw fear in all of their faces. All of their faces. They were freaking out. They didn't know what to do. That's why they called Miami-Dade, they called Ovalaka, they called Hialeah Gardens, because the city of Hialeah does not have enough police officers on the street. Yes?
I'm going to take the last question here before time is up. Okay, our next topic, if I can read it correctly, is immigration and Obamacare. And this will be by Christine Timmett.
Thank you.
Let's welcome Christine, everybody.
Oh, I know, I hear that. I'm going to take it by minutes because I'm a 3-minute person. I can destroy you in 3 minutes already.
Go
Well, I'll take 1 minute to introduce myself. I'm Christine Tillman. I'm formerly of the Michigan Libertarians out of Lansing, Michigan. I helped to write all the welfare reform laws in this country that Clinton signed. I have 2 gold seals to President George W. Bush just for talking. And I know why he did that, because of all the work I did in Michigan as a community activist. I now live here in Florida. Still a community activist, and so let's get started on Obama Don't Care unaffordable health care plan. Now, first of all, no one has to buy insurance in 2014 or any other time. He did not win that part of his action. There is a lot of propaganda right now saying that January the 1st, 2014, everyone's required to have insurance. They're saying October the 1st, you're required to register in this health care plan's open enrollment. That simply is not true. Justice Roberts and the crew made it quite clear. They put in all the newspapers, Mr. Obama cannot make the people buy anything under the Commerce Clause because it's only a few words. It just says Congress shall have the power to establish, to regulate commerce amongst foreign nations, states, and Indian tribes. It doesn't say the word people, so you can't do that. The Commerce Clause actually protects the people from any such thing done by the government, and that is why they told him you have to make it a tax. And he did not use Amendment 16. That is the income tax code. He used Article 1, Section 8. It says, Congress shall, the United States shall have the power to levy taxes for the welfare of America. That's the clause that Social Security and Medicare is under. So, what's going to happen? If you don't buy insurance, the only thing the federal government can do to you is take it out of your income tax. You are not required to sign up and do any such thing as any marketplace starting October the 1st. And any company that tells you that you're required to do this insurance and collect money from you is fraud. And before this whole thing is over, you're going to see the attorneys advertising. Has an insurance company told you you were required to have insurance? You're not really required to have insurance. They can't even make you pay the tax. They're telling you right here, there's going to be no way to track people. They're telling you right here, this whole thing is toothless. Kathleen Sebelius has said, she has said that it's a volunteer program depending on people volunteering to be in the gold and the silver and gold and all these plans. And even if you don't pay the taxes, they can't arrest you. They can't do nothing to you. Not a thing. So, the one other thing that Obama didn't figure out, and believe me, I contact as many of his officers as possible, and in my newsletter, I told him clearly, you're going to go down on that part. His goal was to get the insurance companies in every single pocket and every purse, but he can't do it. But it's the propaganda. You read it every day about a requirement. Not happening. Once you pay that tax, they forgot the taxpayer bill of rights. You must have representation. You pay that tax, they're supposed to give you some kind of health care coverage. See, they didn't think this thing out. There's people like me out here who know the Constitution. I am the constitutional consultant for the Fort Lauderdale Tea Party. I've always been a constitutional consultant. I do not allow anybody to violate the Constitution. You just will not get away with it. So I hope you remember what I said. Please tell people, don't pay nothing. Let them take it out of your federal income tax. If you feel like you want to pay the first year's $95, 2015 is $325, 2016 is $695, and thereafter is $2,000 a year. Well, that's cheaper than fooling with the insurance companies. They've got articles in the paper. People are writing in. One lady wanted her to pay over $5,000 up front for a deductible when she has a pre-existing condition. All this stuff that they're telling you, don't listen to any of it. Call me, I'll give you a call. Just don't listen. Just don't buy it. It's Obama Don't Care unaffordable health care and unconstitutional to tell you that you're required because you simply are not. So now let's get to the immigration. Recently, and you find this online, if you type my name in, you will see this. I beat Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and John Boehner. And the court added the name of Nancy Pelosi. I charged them with violation of the United States Constitution for federal immigration laws. They said, sure, you are right, you're absolutely correct. They can't really do this under the Constitution, but they got a Bivens Act. A Bivens Act is when the federal government is guilty, but nobody can do anything to them because they get sovereign immunity. So the $5 million that I sued for, I couldn't get that. But I took it back in, I sued on the laws, Eric Holder. Once again, they said, you're right, these laws are unconstitutional, they really can't do this. But I don't have the legal meritorious standing to put that through. So it's sitting in appeals court right now because Justice Kahn and Seltzer ruled that they have the right to do immigration under the naturalization clause and sovereign nation. I told the appeals court, I rest my case. You can't do that. Justice Roberts told us all in the newspaper, and Justice Kennedy, they say it was not written in the clause that they're using or nowhere else in the Constitution. They can't do it. The naturalization clause says Congress should have the power to establish uniform naturalization. It does not say migration and importing. So if you're going to tell Mr. Obama and Congress you can't do the people in the Congress clause because that word people isn't in there, then why in the next clause, the very next clause, they're doing migration and importing, don't say that. The migration clause is Article 1, Section 9, the first 19 words. It says migration and importation of such persons is what any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, and that's the way it was done until the mid-70s when the Democrats that were all powerful. They ran this country for 39 years. The judges that they put in office let them take over immigration under discretionary federal laws. And what I have to go to the Supreme Court, I needed the court to actually write down what clauses they're using. Because when I go before the Supreme Court, I can't say, oh, I saw it on the internet, or you can't do that. You have to have. So I rest my case. Judge Kahn and Seltzer, this is Christine, we're dismissing your case because everybody knows that they do this under naturalization clause and sovereign nation. You can't do it under sovereign nation either. Justice Roberts just told you this year, foreign nations, states, and Indian tribes. Do it say people of sovereign nation? It don't. You can't do the people. So where we are now, my old friends in the House of Representatives, the ones who passed all the welfare reform laws that Clinton signed, they just passed a bill out of committee trying to return immigration power back to the states. It says right here, it's a controversial bill that will allow states the right to enforce immigration laws and to create their own policies. And right here, this was Bob Goodlatt's committee, and Dan Webster right here in our state has that in his bill too. It does not mean that people aren't coming to this country. Millions of people came to this country under the constitutional laws, and they love coming here. We love them because the state and the people of each state, we brought the people we want to bring, and the people who came, they were great people. They wanted to learn English, they wanted to work. There was no federal program. You can't do that. There's nothing written. The Democrats did it. They wanted to get a bunch of people here to vote them in office. And now we got this big old mess going on, about 11 million people. We don't know what to do. You don't have to know what to do. Just leave them alone. You send everybody to the state. The green card and the alien card is going to be, it's not going to be what the paper's written on. You're going to have a state card with that strip on the back. And guess what else? It's not going to be free. The same as Marco Rubio was talking about. They were going to get, what he said, $500 for immigration registration and work visa fees. And he said he was going to be collecting back pay for the United States. Well, we told him when he went there, darn it, to do the same thing the Goodlatte committee just did. You know what happened? We got the last expose we got on Marco Rubio, said Menendez Senator Menendez, a Democrat, told Marco Rubio to work over the conservatives, work them over, and prophesize them and get them to vote this in. All this stuff that was just done was really a Democrat bill with only 14 Republicans voted for it. So where we are right now is, it's not going to mean that people aren't coming to this country. It means when you come to this country, you have to register with the state, and you have to take whatever the state has to offer. There's not going to be any more big money from Washington. And so I want to put this right in with the Obama Don't Care. Now, here is what the plan was. The plan is for the businesses, because they have to comply with Obamacare. If they're the ones who have to feed the penalty, they call ours fee all they want to the penalty but don't pay any attention. Here's what the plan is. The people, the 30 million people they're supposed to be bringing here, all are exempt. They won't have to pay for them. So they're going to send the Americans home and hire them. Cute. Ain't going to work. No, it's not going to work. We're just not going to let that happen. You come to this country, you come here and you work the same way as we do, and we're not going to let them bring 40 million people here and put 40 million Americans out of work. I just don't see that. You know, I think we should be doing programs that are going to actually retrain the 40 million Americans who've lost their jobs. And they say, oh, it's high tech. We're going to have high tech start in America, thank you. I mean, you bring some high tech people here. 2-year-olds can get on the computer and do, you know, so what? I mean, don't tell me dumb stuff. Then I get upset when you do dumb stuff. High tech started in America in the 1800s. I heard someone say the name Eli Whitney. First high tech. Next high tech, they tell you it's Tom Edison, the car manufacturers, and Graham Bell. It's not true. It's 2 black men. Elijah McCoy, the real McCoy, is Granville T. Wood. Google them. You'll see they put everything in the cars. All of that belongs to them, but they didn't have the money to do the manufacturing. So GE, Nabisco, the auto companies, Tom Edison, they call Granville the Black Edison. They got all their stuff done. That was high tech. So what are you telling me? You're sending for high tech and you started here. You know, in today's high tech, Bill Gates. You know, everything started in America. So I would appreciate it if you not treat me like I'm stupid. No, please don't do that. Don't tell me you're sending for some people who had to learn it from you. You know, so I hope I haven't bored anyone. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for letting me talk, you know, and have a nice evening.
As Michael said, I'd like to speak about Adrian Wiley's campaign and also just in general elections. And really, for me, like Juan was saying, is that I'm a neophyte to politics and neophyte to activism, and I'm the last person I would think that would even be talking about elections or campaigning. But I volunteered with Adrian's campaign to represent or take a leadership role in Broward County. So I'd like to, you know, get this underway, get people motivated for the campaign. And, you know, when we talk about elections, one of the things that, the reason why we're in a party is to elect people, get the campaign and formulate the ideas in the election to, you know, guide people to our, you know, libertarian principles and things like that. And like Juan was saying, there's some people running locally in the Dade County. That's good to hear. Around the state, there's other libertarians. I know of Lucas Overby.
For Congress.
In Pinellas County. A couple other names like Randy Taylor's over in Pinellas also. He's running for a state house. So there's the people that are running all levels of government under the Libertarian banner, which is great. And of course, in the running for governor is Adrian Wiley. And of course, his tagline is
Take a stand.
He take a stand. That's right. And I brought a little, some props. So take a stand is also, is one of his taglines is keep your lifestyle, keep your money, and keep your freedom. And I think that epitomizes a lot of libertarian principles right there. As far as the election, it is, in 2014. So we've got 14 months, which, seems like a long time, but of course, at our age, time flies. So it'll come up on us pretty fast. So we need to get the grassroots movement going, and we need to start it now. So that's why I'm speaking tonight. And we got probably one more month before the other parties, the Democrats and Republicans, really start getting into the election cycle, get their parties motivated for the election. So the idea is by, say, this year, or during this time next year, that we get all our organization in place and really make a push for the last 3 months heading into November. The main push right now is to get the petition drive. What Adrian's trying to do is get on the ballot through the petition instead of just paying the fee. So we like to get people to go around and talk and meet with voters and get them to sign this. So we've got about 50 back there. If you want to bring some back to your friends or your coworkers or whatever, please take a bunch. It'll help out.
Yeah, you got a stack there?
Yeah, in the back there.
Okay, we'll pass them on.
Yeah. So the petition drives, and to make that goal, they've set the bar at about 120,000 petitions. So it's a daunting goal, but I think the idea is to get around, talk to voters, get his name out into the public. Because the best thing to do, I think, is to get him qualified for the debates. That is the big key. Get him in front of all the cameras, side by side with the competition. I think that is the main thing to do. And we'll need to get a threshold of about 15% in the polls. And the one poll that they're going by, I think there's one poll, and it's the Mason-Dixon poll. So we need to start hammering those people to get him at least included in the poll. And then, if he's included, we can work on people to get him up to that 15%. So that's one of the primary focus that we've got right now. Also, for the election, we stand the chance of a first for libertarians, and that is a primary in the state. We've got right now, I think, 3 people declared for running for governor. So that is going to be newsworthy in itself, and we can capitalize on that, hopefully. Again, from our needs right now is to get that percentage to 15%. And he was included, Adrian was included in a poll done by the St. Pete poll, and he actually came in at 9%, or nearly 9%, which is unheard of for a libertarian candidate. That's like 9 times what any other libertarian that's ever run has garnered. So that is encouraging, and that, we're a year out from the election. So I think we can get up to 50%. Just going, 1 percentage point a month if we get that going. So I think it's attainable. And but the real thing we need are volunteers, like everybody in this room, to go out, get excited, go door to door if you have to, handing out petitions or talking to people. And some of the suggestions I've heard from others is that, if your kids are in soccer, you've got a captive audience with all the adults there watching their kids play soccer. You just go around and introduce yourself and talk about Adrian Wiley and getting, because a lot of people want to help third-party candidates. They want an alternative to Democrats and Republicans. So we got that on our side, is that they are very receptive about signing the petition. I also have a couple of these to hand out if anybody wants them to put on their cars. start advertising as you drive the turnpike and interstate. It's a good way of getting the name out again. So we got there. And of course, if you want to hang this up,
Better than fuzzy dice.
yeah, fuzzy dice and libertarian dice. That's the thing. So the 15% is a big thing. One of the things that we've got coming up shortly is football season, and again, here's all these people coming to one location. We can go there, do some sign waving, get the name out. You know, Adrian Wiley for governor, go around tailgate parties, things like that. You know, so we've almost got 2 of those. We've got this one coming up, and then next year, before the election, we've got another group of football games that we can hit. You know, we got the pro game, we got Miami Dolphins, we got the Hurricanes. If you want to go to the Gator game, go to the Gator games or Seminoles and FSU, what have you. You know. I think that's a great idea. Petition drives and gun shows and other things that, you know, Tea Party events. That's one of the things that we need to be on the lookout for is events that Adrian Wiley can come and speak to. Because if you've ever heard Adrian, he's pretty dynamic. He's a great speaker. He knows the issues very well. He's got some rather unique ideas about how to govern Florida too. And I think it's pretty exciting when you hear him talk. You want to be part of the campaign. Now, you know, speaking more locally, here in Broward County, that's what I'm going to try to be focused on. And again, I'm kind of a neophyte at this, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in here that actually, you know, either ran for government or for an office or participated in a campaign. So I can use your help. Please help. Locally, you know, we've got 30 or so municipalities. We've got a lot of precincts too. One of the things that Adrian was talking about is to get a volunteer in each precinct by, say, this time next year. That's, you know, 6,000 volunteers. That's pretty daunting in itself. But if we just focus on our county here, you know, we've got 700 or more precincts. So that's pretty daunting in itself. But if you know, if we can get some volunteers, say we split up the county into like little quadrants. You know, we look at Turnpike and north of Commercial or something like that, and you got a couple of, you know, you could divide this county up into 7. If we get some 10 or so people for each of those quadrants, I think we could do, you know, a lot of good to get the name out by election time, or, you know, getting up to that 15% for the debates. So, from my organizational time, I've gone ahead and put up a Wiley Broward meetup group. We'll start looking at the ways of, you know, coordinating events. If you've got ideas for events, we can go and use that meetup group to coordinate the event. Other ways to help from a national standpoint or state standpoint, he's got Adrian set up the Wiley for Governor campaign team. If you want to join, I would encourage you to join that and can be part of the Broward the meetup group also. Also, we've got a Wiley Twitter team. And we, whenever the campaign puts out any kind of information, you know, we'll repeat and retweet, and that gets his name out, you know, to the cybersphere, so to speak. And it's been pretty good feedback. We've kind of grown, I think, like 100% in a month. So his name is getting out there, obviously at 9%. Also, of course, go to his website, wileyforgovernor.com. Please volunteer. And if you can't, then donate something, either money or time. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm going to throw 30 seconds as fast as I can say this. If you haven't seen the story on Sanjay Gupta, CNN's basic dupe for medicine, and how he has reversed his policy on medical marijuana due to seeing the case of a little girl who was having 300 seizures a year. And all they're doing now on TV is they show them putting drops of cannabinoid oil on her food, and now she has 2 or 3 a year. And Gupta, who came out and said marijuana is just awful, awful, awful stuff, and now he has reversed his role on that and is speaking out in favor of it. That's fantastic, and that's something we need to capitalize on. But without further ado, let's bring up our chairman, Donald Sheldon. He has a very good topic tonight.
All right. Is Donald the last speaker tonight? So anybody who didn't get to speak tonight, we do plan to do these again. So of course, if not next month, there'll be more opportunities for sure.
Thanks, Alex.
just wanted to make sure nobody's
I'm
left
certainly
out.
glad to hear from you. I well put to listen to your advice. This was brought on, by the way, by Michael. It was his suggestion. I wanted to have you all give him a real... And, Alex, you're correct. We will certainly do this again. It's been fun, and it will be even more fun when we get a little bit better at it. I think that you're a great group of speakers, and you've done a wonderful job, and I thank you for each and every one. I want to particularly, however, thank Christine. I tell you, you're absolutely outstanding. I really want to spend some time with you because I need to learn a lot from you.
You're required to come to our meetings from now on.
My talk tonight is just really quite straightforward. You've already heard about the war on drugs. Now, maybe you all are not aware of this, but there is a real honest-to-God shooting war out there that is going on as we sit here. And it's absolutely the saddest and worst thing that we have got in our community. I've been told by people who are more articulate, perhaps, and better read than I, that it is the largest social problem that the United States has today. As a matter of fact, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP, is one of my favorite organizations, and I'm working with them on a project right now that I'll bring to you all's attention within the next month or two. But LEAP has maintained for some time that, this is 4 guys started this 10 years ago, and they now have 100,000 members nationwide in this organization. And I can assure you of one thing, if you think that your prohibition should be kept in place, don't talk to one of these guys, okay? Because these guys are all 30 and 40-year ex-narcotic cops, and they don't mince words. They will get in your face in a heartbeat because they've been there, done that, and know what horror is being committed in your name as you sit here tonight. There is no such thing as a Bill of Rights to a person who is accused of a drug crime in the United States at the federal level particularly. I personally am very much aware of that, and I've worked on the inside with some of these people that are accused of drug crimes, and I will tell you, it is a farce to think that the Bill of Rights exists. Now, each of you has a copy of the Bill of Rights because I put it on your table. I wish you would take this home with you tonight. And I want to bring a couple of things to your attention. Of course, everybody is very much aware of Article 2, which gives us the right to bear arms. But effectively, you do not have a speedy trial at the federal level. Now, at the state level, you do. But at the federal level, there is no such thing as a speedy trial. I personally met one man that had served 7 years in jail and never gone to trial. 7 years. You can be locked up on a drug charge forever, and you will never, ever see a jury trial. Won't happen. Just forget about it, won't happen. Now, how do they do that? I'll tell you how they do it. They have 45 days to hold you But if you do not agree to an extension of time, they will release you, rearrest you, and take you back before the same grand jury, and instead of having a 3-count indictment, now you'll have a 4-count indictment, or a 5-count indictment. So you will be faced with, instead of minimum of 10 years, a minimum mandatory of 20 years. And so they never, ever resist asking for additional time. And all the feds do is just keep you in there with no release date until you admit to guilt to something. And believe me, these prosecutors don't give two hoots in hell whether what you're pleading guilty to has any semblance of what you might have done. It doesn't have to have any, there's no relationship. I worked with one man on a gun charge. And he actually did go to trial on a gun charge. He was faced with a mandatory minimum because he was a felon in possession of a weapon, or they claimed he was. And so he went to trial. Now he got hung jury twice, and then he went to trial a 3rd time. Between the 2nd and the 3rd time, he was calling me at home at night collect, and he said, "Don, they've told me that if I'll plead guilty to conspiracy to buy marijuana," there was no drugs on the case, by the way, none whatsoever. "Conspiracy to buy marijuana will have you out in 3 months. If you go to trial a 3rd time and you lose, we're going to put you down for 40 years. You will never see the light of day." He said, "What should I do?" No way I'm going to touch that. I know what I'd have done, but you know, I would not have gone to trial a 3rd time. But this guy had the courage to do it, and he won. It was a 5-count indictment. He got not guilty on all 5 counts. And the judge actually got up off the bench and came down and apologized to this man on behalf of the United States government. First and only time I've ever heard that. I've talked to a bunch of lawyers. No one's ever heard of a federal judge apologizing to a defendant who was found not guilty. But anyway, it did happen in this case. The judge's name is Berman, Southern District of New York. He is a good judge. But I'll tell you right now, he's the exception and not the rule. The previous judge that had that case threw the book at him. He got a hung jury. He called me up. He was crying. The man told the jury, "Look, you got the gun, you got the cop, you got the bullets, you got the da-da-da-da. He's within 1,000 feet of the school. You can't be in the South Bronx and not be within 1,000 feet of the school." I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so, you know, and go back in there and give me a verdict. And I said, "Rico, we'll win that in the Second Circuit." Probably would have too, 3 years later. You know, I mean, he'd have been in jail the whole damn time. And so, you got to understand that judges have enormous power. They can literally do anything, particularly a sitting federal court judge in the district level. He can do anything he wants to. Never, ever doubt that. He can do anything he wants to. Now, you may win, but at what cost? It will cost you. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about grief and pressure on you, the like of which you cannot even believe. Anyway, Julian right now is a refugee, and a political refugee in Israel. He was convicted in Orlando for passing out fully from Foreign Jury Association material. I had been there with him like the day before. I happened not to have been there the day he was arrested, but he was sentenced to 150 days, and he just left the country. Now, Julian, of course, as you all probably know, is what can I call him? An anarchist, I guess, is probably as good as any. He really does not like the government, and his book is The Non-Tribe. Julian has been arrested 32 times, mostly for marijuana. He even tells the joke once that his marijuana was tested, it didn't have enough active ingredient in it. He had to go back and fuss at his supplier. But he was a retired professor from Penn State, and he was going out every Friday and at the gates of Penn State and lighting up a big marijuana cigar. It got to the point where he was arrested so many times that the judge gave him a free pass. They said to the cops, "Do not bring this man back before my court. Just leave him alone." Okay? So Julian has a long record of acting in an appropriate manner. I mean, he is a really good guy. And he was one of our first speakers here. We've had a lot of really good speakers. I'm not one of them necessarily, but the fact is we've had really good speakers. I think, Mike, you were mentioning the idea that the federal government is supplying marijuana. We had one speaker who was getting 300 marijuana, Bill, I'm sorry, 300 marijuana cigarettes a day, a month, in a big can. And we had him along with a guy who had been given a sentence of 70 years on a marijuana charge and had served something like 31 years in federal penitentiary. And he's out on the street now. But you know, the dichotomy of this program between one of them getting legal marijuana just given to him and the other getting the longest sentence ever given by the federal government was really quite interesting. I really think that we're going to. I would guarantee you that in 2016, whoever is a Democrat is going to run on the FDR ticket, which was vote for me and I'll set you free. And he did actually do just exactly that. This is the 80th year anniversary of FDR having ended alcohol prohibition. He did it on December the 5th, December the 5th of 1933. So this will be our 80th anniversary this year of Roosevelt giving us our freedom. Partially. We've got a little way to go yet. We've got to get that rest of that prohibition moved away. And that's what we're going to do. It's going to happen. And I'll tell you another reason I believe it's going to happen. We've got a documentary out there that's 54 minutes long from Bill Clinton and Morgan Freeman. And it is, I think the name of it is something like Reconsidering the Taboo. And it's a wonderful documentary, but these guys are talking about total legalization. They're not just messing around with marijuana anymore. They're finally doing what has to be done. You got to do it all. You got to do it all at one time. The Libertarian Party's been on this for a while now. But we got to do it all at once and lead is right. You got two problems here. You got an addiction problem. You got a crime problem. Legalization will not solve the addiction problem. But overnight, the crime problem goes away. The killing on the streets of Chicago will stop. When Roosevelt took alcohol and made it legal, the murder rate dropped by 60% in the United States in 1 year. It was over. There weren't any more wars on the streets. Now that's what's going to happen this time too. When we go legal and we go all the way, by the way, in talking to legal, saying, you know, everybody's talking about marijuana. Well, that's fine. But here's the problem. They're talking about making it more and more legal all the time, changing what they're going to charge you with for small possession. That's fine. But here's the kicker. We're still arresting 800,000 people a year on marijuana possession. Now, can you imagine that? 800,000 arrests a year for marijuana possession? That's sad, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, anyway, it's going to stop, but be very, very, very careful. You know, this dog will bite you, and if you ever get bit by it, you will never want to go there again. I mean, there was no such thing as a Bill of Rights for anyone accused of a drug charge in the federal system in the United States today. Be careful out there. Thank you for coming. We're going to do this again.